Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another lecture for Sage 50 2021 edition. And this lecture we are going to be focused on chapter 3A, which is account receivable module. So before I get started with the software, what we'll do is we'll go through to chapter 3A, what's covered in chapter 3A, and then after that we will see what database file we need to use. We download that, and then after that we will start working on Sage 50. All right, so now to get started, as we all know that in this chapter we are going to be covering accounts payable module. So chapter 3A is similar to chapter 2, is divided into two parts. So you see there's chapter 3A, which is payable module basics, and then there's chapter 3, which goes beyond basics. So what we're going to do is we're going to understand the accounts payable module as what's covered in the accounts payable module. The transactions that you do day to day are covered in this chapter. Okay, so we'll go through some of the transactions that you will do on a regular basis in an accounts payable department, such as recording purchase orders, creating new vendors, adding or editing the existing vendors, and then going through the purchase order, modifying those orders, and recording purchase invoices. And then later we will also look into recording payments from the accounts payable as well. Okay, so you make payments, and then those payments will be for outstanding invoices or miscellaneous payments. Okay, so go through all those transactions and see how this account payable module works. So again, this chapter what we're doing is focus on Sage 50 2021 software. So the two things that you need to work on this software is to work on this chapter is you need a software, which is the Sage 50 software, and you need a database file that already have all the data. So for this chapter we are working for a company called Tayson Twice. So to work on chapter 3A, you need a database file, and that database file is given to you on the top head right here. Okay, some professors, what they do is they will post this database on their Blackboard's website or whatever internal website they're using. So you will download that from there as well. Okay, most of the time this file is shared in a zipped version, so you have to download, unzip the file, and then save the file wherever you want it to save, and then start working on it. Okay, so we'll go through the file and the software after. So what first we're gonna go through briefly on chapter 3 and see what exercise are need to be covered. Now, quick disclaimer about my video. I'm not going to be covering all the exercises in this chapter. So I'm briefly talking about the different exercises that we have, the topics that are covered in this chapter. So I'll go through all of that. But it is your responsibility to make sure you read the chapter and complete all the exercises from 3A all the way to 3A21. Okay. So what's covered in this chapter? So as I said earlier, we are focused on the accounts payable module. So briefly go through what's in the payable module, how it looks, which I'm sure you guys all know that. Then we look at some of the reports that you have seen it before as well, how to print out the aged accounts payable, income statement, inventory report. And then after that, we'll go through how to edit or customize a purchase invoice journal. Then we look at how to create a purchase order, how do you revise a purchase order, looking at the outstanding or pending POs, creating new vendors, editing new vendors, recording a purchase order, purchase invoice without a PO, and I'll do that with the PO as well. Then we look at some of the invoices that we're going to record. So record a purchase invoice without a PO or with the PO. And then we also record some payments as well. And then we also record a purchase return, and then after we'll print out some reports. Okay, when I record a payment, we'll do a payment with the discount and without the merchant lane discount. Okay, so we'll go through all of that. All right, so now you guys all know what need to be covered in this chapter, so you are going to go through each exercise and read every information that's given to you. And again, this book is very helpful, everyone. I don't recommend you to skip these exercises, because there are a lot of information that are there. There are screenshots. You can match your information with what need to be recorded and see everything is that you're doing are matching with your with the information that the book is asking you to do. So once you feel very comfortable with the chapter, you can do one of the exercises, challenge exercise, at the end. Okay, so that challenge exercises are provided, two of them in this chapter, so you can do at least one of it. All right, so this briefly tells you what's covered in this chapter. Now, to get started with this chapter, you need a database file. So the database file is provided right here. Okay, so this is the file, and you have seen in my other videos as well. So if you're downloading a file from this platform, you're given a file which is .exe. Okay, so whenever you download this file, the computer is always going to see this file as .execute file, and it's not going to read what type of file it is. So it's going to give you that this is a threat to the computer. So all you have to do is just ignore it and tell the system to keep the file. So you guys will see what happened here, and this is a normal process. You can tell the system to download. When you click download, it's going to give you this message. You're going to click on these three arrows and say keep the file, and then the computer is still going to stop you and say, okay, you really want to do that? So you say, okay, yes, we're going to keep the file. And once you do that, it will save the file in your download folder. Now you click on this folder and locate this file. And when you guys locate this file, that you see that this file is saved as .exe. Now what you can tell the system is to open it. So when you double click on this, it's going to open the file, but it's going to ask you a location. So by default, it's going to unzip this folder in this C drive, ch50 data 2021. So if you're a professor, or if you don't want to create a new folder, you just want to click unzip, it's going to create this folder automatically on your C drive and unzip this folder, and then you have to work on the file from here, or copy the file from this location and relocate the file. What I recommend is, instead of unzipping in this folder, why don't we give a location where we want the file to be saved? So for my class, I tell everyone to create a specific folder. So we are going to create a folder. We already have a folder under C drive. So you're going to go on a C drive and look for the folder that we have, which is the accounting 152 2022 false. And if you are in different course, you will create a folder according to that, and then within that folder we have a separate folder for the chapter database file. So I said, okay, I want the file to be located right here, and I press OK, and I'm gonna unzip. So actually, before I unzip, I know that I have unzipped this folder earlier when my video was not saved, and I'm recording this video again. So hope that I won't have this error again. So what I need to do is I need to delete that file. So I need to go inside here in this folder and delete the file. You don't have to do this. This is only me who has to do it. The reason is that I don't want to have two files with the same name. So I'm going to delete this file. Okay, and now I'm going to go right here, and I already have the location set up. And now what I'm going to do is going to tell the system to unzip. Now you see that number 3 folder is being created and the file has been saved. And now we simply close this. Okay, so now the file is saved, and we are ready to work on Sage 50. So what we're going to do next is we're going to open Sage 50 and open the file. So we're going to go right here and locate the Sage 50 software. Okay, so when you open Sage 50, it's going to ask you, say, do you want to open existing company? The answer is yes. It was only chapter 4 when we were creating a company from scratch. But now we are going to be using the file that's provided to you, which is the chapter 3A twice. So you can say select an existing company, and once I press OK on that, then it's going to ask me the location. So I'm going to go back into chapter 1 and look at 3A and then click on the file that I wanted to open. So the file that you're opening is always the one that has this blue icon. And once you click OK, and it will take some time and it will open up the file. And it's going to remember what the last session date was. So it was March 31st, 2022. And then you press OK, and then your file will open. Now we have Sage 50 open on your computer. So I'm going to move it on the screen that's getting recorded. So now you have the file open. So now let's see where we at. We are in the payable module, and this is where we're going to work on the payable. And this is the information. This is a snapshot of your vendor aging at, I mean, it's year to date. So technically, this tells you the information as of, which is as of March 31st, right? So now, before we get into this, the system or the book tells you to look at some of the reports. So we already know who owes the money, which vendor do we owe the money, and if you want to see which invoices need to be paid, you can go into the reports, look at the payables, and look at the vendor age report. And then if you want to see a detail, you will click on detail. If you want to see a summary, you will click on summary. Most of the time you want to see a detail, so it gives you a list of the invoice with the term, with the due date, and the date of the invoice. So if we click on that, and that will pull up the vendor detail as of March 31st. Okay, so this is my report on March 31st, 2022, and tells you which vendor you owe the money, for which invoice, what was the date on the invoice, and what was the term on that invoice as well. And then this tells you what is the total and what are the different terms, the current, the 31 to 60, 61 to 90, and 91 plus. Okay, so if you want, you can export, but we don't need to export. Then you can also look at the inventory summary report, what inventory you have on stock. Why do we need inventory summary report? Mostly what you do on a real world is on a weekly basis, you look at what is your inventory on hand, and based on that you want to place an order on the inventory. Okay, because if you don't have inventory, you can't run the business. So it is a normal practice for the manager to call the accounting department to see what's the inventory that you have on hand. That's only applicable if you're maintaining the inventory stock in the accounting system. That typically means that you're using the perpetual inventory system, where you are updating inventory as it comes. As you sell, you update the inventory as well. So you can look at the inventory summary and click on the summary, and then select the date March 31st and press OK. It will list all the items that you have on hand as of today's date, that is March 31st. That's your inventory that you have on hand. And this is the price, this is the quantity, that's the value of that inventory. Okay, and then you can look at the financial statements if you want to see it. I don't need to look through it, but we have done it many times as well. So for practice, I recommend you to run the financial statements again, so that way you understand and make sure you know how to do that as well. So now I'm not going to go in the same order that book is going to go through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the accounts payable module and go through the things that are important. So first, let's start with this tab. Okay, so if you need to edit an existing vendor, there's two ways you can do that. You can either click on the vendor and say modify a vendor, and then select the vendor that you want to modify and press OK. and once you press OK, it will take you to this vendor place and you can change whatever you need to change. The second way to do that is you can simply click on any vendor that you want to change. You click on it, it will take you to that window, and then you can change whatever you need to change as well. Okay, and if you need to add a new vendor, you simply click add a vendor, and then it will take you to the screen, and then you add the vendor. You guys have done that back in chapter 4 as well, so I'm sure you know this. We don't need to spend so much time on that. So now the other thing that I have to tell you is if you want to remove a vendor. So if you have a history in a vendor, you cannot remove the vendor. What you can do is you can go in and then inactive a vendor. So that means you won't able to post any transaction in the future. That way, and then next year when you don't have a year date information, then you can remove that vendor. So the best practice is always make the vendor inactive, so at least you can pull the historical information. So now after we look at the vendor, we go into this particular place. Okay. So now before we get in, the other information that was talking about is changing the layout of a purchase invoice or a purchase order. Okay. So now let's start with looking at purchase order, and then I'll show you guys what is mean changing the format. So there are these features. So we have purchase quote, purchase orders, goods received, and then purchase invoice, and then finally making a payment. So if you think about a cycle of the transaction, it could start from here or here. Okay, as for example, you wanted to call a customer or call a vendor and say I wanted to buy something. I wanted to know what the price of that item is. So you can send a purchase code. I never seen a purchase code, so that's why I don't recommend even looking into it, because the purchase code is not a very practical thing. The sale code is a practical. So what you do is you call a company, say, you know what, I wanted to buy these toys, can you send me a sales code? Then what you do is you get a sales code. Now what you can do is you can take the sales code and enter that as a purchase code here, and then you can convert that purchase code into a purchase order. Okay, usually this we don't record purchase codes in a, I mean, I've worked with many systems. We don't have purchase codes. It's usually a sales code that's provided by a customer. So for you, you create a purchase, you call the company, they will send you a code. If you agree, you place an order. Okay, so typically an accounts payable starts from a purchase order. So you call the company, say I wanted to order these particular items, and they said, okay, well, we have it in stock, we'll ship it in 2 days or 3 days. Okay, you place an order, so that typically means you create a purchase order. Okay, and now there's another feature that Sage 50 added a few years ago, where you can create a purchase order as a goods received. So this is if you have a warehouse and various stores and you want to cross check whether you received the product or not, then you can convert the purchase order into a goods received note. So typically what it means that you said you received the inventory and it puts that in that transition, and then when you create a purchase invoice, what you do is you convert the goods received note as a purchase invoice. So we don't use this feature because this is a paid feature and you have to pay a separate fees for it, and then not all the companies are using it. So what we do is we simply focus on the purchase order gets converted into a purchase invoice. And now when the product is shipped, you receive a purchase invoice from a vendor, you record a purchase invoice. Once the purchase invoice is recorded, then you have to make a payment of that as well. Okay, then you make a payment. If there's discount applicable, then you use a discount and then make a payment for a net amount. If there's no discount available, then you just make a payment for the full invoice. Okay, and that is the cycle that you have to go through. And now if you don't place a purchase order, you simply go to a particular place, picked up some inventory, and then in that case you simply start your transaction from here. Okay, and then record a payment. Then sometime what happens is you just go in, buy something and make a payment by check on or at a spot. So then you make a payment and then make a payment method as a check or a cash, and then you don't have to worry about a payment. Okay, right? And then there's a payment where you can record various types of payments such as miscellaneous payment, credit card payment, and a payment to the government as well. So what we'll do is we'll go through all the different types. Okay, so we'll start with the purchase order. Let's say on April 2nd, Jason transfer, so not Jason, but Markham twice place an order for an inventory. Okay, so we place an order with Markham twice for 10 medium cars and 20 large cars. So what we do is we change the session date to April 2nd, and then we place an order. And then this order, what we do is we select the vendor, which is Markham twice, and the PO number shows up, and there you select the inventory. See, the pay later is there, so that means we're not making any payment. So we select an item, we said large 10 cars at a price of $31. Okay, and we don't need to change an account, that's your inventory account. And then we select medium cars and 20 of the medium cars, and the price is $22. Okay, and the term is 210 not 30, and that's it. And now we're going to check the journal entry. Now the thing that you have to remember is when you do a purchase order, there is no commitment, so typically means that there is no journal entry. Okay, so then what you do is you simply click record. Now it says the transaction has been recorded successfully. Now what happened next is you closed it, and then you realize that okay, you order 20 medium cars, but you need 40 cars. Okay, because you know the next week is going to be a little busy week, you wanted to have more inventory. So what you do, you call the company and say, you know what, I want to revise my purchase order on April 30th. You tell them, okay, you know what, I want to revise my purchase order. So if you want to revise a purchase order, all you can do is there's two ways you can do that. You go in, click find order, and then you click on that, and you see that you won't able to change anything right here. And now if you want to change it, you simply click on this adjust icon, and then it will allow you to make the changes. That's one way. The other way is you want to skip the step, you can simply click on adjust order. With the adjust order, it's still going to ask you to find the order that you want to adjust. And once you find that, it will simply open that order for you, and then you make the changes that you wanted to order. So now you say, okay, you know what, instead of 40 and 20, I wanted to order 40, and then you negotiate a price, or instead of paying $22, you will pay $21. Okay, so which was a deal, so that's why you wanted to place an order for 40 cars. Now once that is done, again you can check the journal entries, but I know that there is no transaction to be recorded. It will show nothing in there. And then you click record. Now once that transaction is recorded, then it's time for you to receive the product. Okay, so on April 8th, okay, you receive a shipment of that inventory, and then at the same time you receive the purchase invoice as well. So what do? So at that time you want to convert that purchase order into a purchase invoice, and then when you receive that purchase invoice, you will see that instead of sending you a 40 medium car, they only sent you 30 medium cars, and that means that there were 10 still back order. Okay, so right now you are going to do is you're going to convert a purchase order into a purchase invoice. So now there's two ways to do that. Okay, I'll show you both of them. First, you can either go right here and say find an order. So we find the order number 82. Once the order is found, what you can do is you have this convert. You can say convert this into a purchase invoice. Once you click on that, it will take this information and copy that information into a purchase invoice, and then you change whatever you need to change. That's one way. The second way that I like to do is I create a new invoice. And when you create a new invoice, you say, okay, transaction time is invoice, and this is pay later, and you select the vendor, which is Markham twice. Even if I don't want to select the vendor, what I'm going to do is I put the invoice number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the PO number 82. So I'll click on this icon right here. It's going to say, okay, these are the orders, which one you want to pick? I only have one, so I'll pick that up. And now see that it picks up the vendor already, picks up what you wanted, what you ordered, and now you can see how much items did we receive. Did I receive 10 large cars? Yes. Did I receive 40 medium cars? No, I only received 30. So now in that case, you see that there are 10 back orders. Okay. Now what you do is you recorded 30, and then 10 will still be a pending. And then the terms remain same, and the pay later is the payment of method. And now I'll look at the journal entry. So my journal entry will be debit inventory, debit HST paid on purchases, and credit accounts payable. Now once you're happy with that, you can click post. Now I say entry J1 has been completed. Okay, so this is how you will record a purchase invoice with the PO. Now there's another invoice that you can record. Okay, when in that case we don't want to do the PO, we will simply create an invoice from the purchase invoice. Okay, so you went into the lending specialist toy shop, and then from there you bought some toys. Okay, so you went in, you bought the toys, and you picked it up. Okay, and then you have the term with them was 210 net 30 as well, and that happened on April 12th. So you will do is you change the session date to April 12, and then you go right here, create the invoice. Now in this case we don't need to convert anything. What we do is we're going to start saying invoice, pay later, who's the vendor, it is lending specialist toy, and then put the invoice number, which is 567, and then there's no PO, so we select the item that we ordered. So we order small cars and small trucks. So we order small cars, 20 of these, and the price was $15 per item. And then we also order the small trucks, 20 of these as well, and the price was $14. Okay, and then the account we don't need to change, is going into the inventory, and the term was 210 net 30. And now if you want to check the entry, you can display a purchase entry, and it will show up the same entry that we had before, debit inventory, debit HST paid, and then credit accounts payable. Okay, now it's doing the same thing, but we are not converting, we're creating an invoice from scratch. Then that's done. Okay, now next thing that we want to do is we want to record a payment now. Okay, now before I record a payment, let's look at the return as well. So now it is April 15. Okay, it is April 15, and then we find out that the product that we ordered from Markham twice, there was 30 medium cars that we ordered, and then out of that 5 were damaged. You call them and say, okay, well that's fine, you can return it, and then we issue your credit. Okay, so now what you're doing is you're recording a purchase return. Now before you record a purchase return, we need to know what was the price that you paid, so, and then what was the invoice number. So what I'm going to do is going to find the invoice, and it's going to show me, okay, I'm going to tell the system show me all the invoices, and I say, oh, this is the Markham one, is 1 2 3 4 5. I open it, and I'm going to see what did I pay for that medium car. I paid $21, and I'm returning 5 of these items. Okay, so $21 is something that we have to write down, and now we're returning, and sorry, I need to know the date as well on that invoice, and the date on that invoice was April 8, and now we are sitting on April 15. Okay, so we'll select, we don't need to select, we just have to remember. So 8 was the date, so now we're going to create a new invoice, and then we select the vendor, which is Markham twice, and then to put the number, you put the invoice number and put RT at the end, that represents the return, and you select the item that you're returning, which was the medium car, and then how many returning? We are returning 5. So the key thing is that you have to put a minus sign in front of the quantity, and see $21 what we pay, so we simply, that is the amount that we're going to keep, and then the credit of 105 plus the HST. Okay, and then you have to remember the term. So we wanted to match the term with the original invoice. So original invoice was dated on April 8. So how many days has been gone? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 7 days has been gone. So we have to revise the term. So 10 minus 7 is 3. 30 minus 7 is 23. So anytime you're doing a return, you have to match your original date and then subtract the number of days that has been passed and then use that as a term. So if the 10 days and this return happened after the 10 days, so this will simply be a 0. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And now because we're using perpetual inventory, so and there's a return, it's going to be a credit to the inventory account. Okay, so we don't need to change that account. So now we can display a journal entry. It will be a debit to accounts payable, credit inventory, and credit HST. Debit accounts payable, credit inventory, and credit HST. And I close it and now post that transaction. Okay, so now we're done with those transactions. So now we have gone through creating a purchase order, creating a purchase invoice with and without the PO. Then we also recorded a purchase return as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to understand how to record a payment. Okay, so there are two ways to record. There's only one payment method for recording an outstanding invoice, but it could happen with or without a discount. So I'm going to show you guys by clicking this arrow to see what different methods with different types of transactions we have under payment. So if you click on this payment, you see there are various options for you. So what are those options is pay purchase invoice. If you're making a payment for an outstanding invoice, you go into pay purchase invoices. So this typically means that this invoice is outstanding and we're making a payment for that. If it has a discount available, you offer that discount, you use the discount because you're making a payment. If there is no discount available, you make a payment for the full amount. Then you have a payment for a credit card that's covered in Chapter 3B. So when you're making a payment for a credit card the company is using, if you're paying for other expenses, so such as you're paying rent, office supplies, you're paying utilities, that's miscellaneous payment. Okay, so this is only to be used to record a cash expenses for non-merchandise transactions. Then we have pay remittance. So that's something that is also covered in Chapter 3B as well. That's when you're making a payment to the government. So let's focus on making a pay purchase invoice. If you do a purchase invoice, this is what's going to happen is you're going to click on pay purchase invoice and you're going to select the method which is check, and then here you're going to select the vendor. Okay, so let's say I'm making a payment to Jason Transportation Services for invoice number 6691 and I'm making a payment on April 15. Now this date invoice was due on March 31st. This is the amount that need to be paid. There's no discount available. So even if I type in here, it's not going to do anything. When I click on the payment due, it will show the full amount. If you're ever making a partial payment, you can just enter the amount of payment that you're making, and that will then the remaining amount will still be in outstanding. Over here, you can make a comment saying check issued and mailed by your name. So I just put my name here. Okay, and then you will simply record post. Now before I post, I want to see the journal entry, display a payment journal entry, and that will show the entry which will be debit to the accounts payable and credit to the bank account. Okay, and then you click post. Now it says J4 has been created and posted successfully. Okay, now on the same day, April 15, we're making another payment. We're making a payment to Markham Twice Manufacturing for all the outstanding invoices, and then use the discount wherever is applicable. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to say payment, pay purchase invoice, and now what we're doing is we're making a payment to Markham Twice. It shows that there are 3 different outstanding invoices, and the last invoice is when there's discount available. Okay, so now you see that Is discount available? No. We'll just put 0 here, and then the payment amount you're making is 1154. The next one is 1126. Then we have May. You have discount available, so you use that. And then there was a return, so you have to use that return as well, and then use that credit as well. So in that case, you have to apply the discount on both of them. And that is why we were putting the terms so that they align. If there is discount available here, there has to be discount available on the return as well, so it has to be in a negative. Okay, so here the payment has been recorded. This is the total check you're writing, and here you put a comment here as well saying check issued and mailed by your name, so you put your name, and you can see a journal entry. The only difference here is that you're going to have a purchase this account being selected as a debit as credit as well. So debit accounts payable with the full amount, and credit bank with the net amount, and credit your purchase discount, and then you click post. Okay, that's how you will record a payment with and without the discount. Okay, miscellaneous payments are covered in the next chapter, so I'll skip that for now, and we'll cover that in chapter 3b. We talked about the purchase return. What else need to be looked at? Okay, so we need to look at is if you want to change the purchase journal for purchase invoice or a purchase order. That's very simple. There's different places you can go. You can go into the settings or form the design, and then there you can change the design for whatever you want to change. So see here, you click on form design and select the form that you want to design and click custom. Okay, that's one way, but I feel that it's more easier if you go into the particular journal. For example, I'm in the purchase order. I wanted to remove some of the columns that I don't want to use. Okay, so I think from here, if I want to look at it, so you know what, I need to use this, I need to use this, I need to use this. I don't need to use a unit. Okay, so I want to get rid of that. So now to customize this journal, you simply click on this icon here, custom journal, and you see it's going to show what columns are being used, and you can check mark the one that you do not want to use. So I don't want to use the unit, so I'll click on it, press OK, and the unit will disappear. Okay, and we simply close it, and now in the future when you click on the purchase order, system will remember, and then it won't have the unit column here. And if you want to do the same thing with the purchase invoice, you're going to do the same thing here as well. Go into purchase invoice, click on custom journal, click on the column, say do not use this, and press OK, and that will have the unit disappeared as well. So this is how you can disappear or customize your journal. Okay, so I think we did cover everything that we need to cover from this chapter. And now once you finish the chapter, what you want to do is you want to print some reports. Okay, so your manager calls you, say, you know what, we are sitting mid-month, I want to see if there's any pending purchase orders. So before you want to place a new order, you want to see if there's anything pending to be delivered. So what you do is you go into reports, payable, and look at pending purchase order by vendor, and then select all vendors and the date April 15 and press OK. And it will show you that there is a pending order number 82, and then you can double click on it. It will take you to the PO and see what's pending to be delivered. Say okay, there are 10 items that need to be delivered back, and it has the detail. Okay, I think it's a different report where that will show you the items that are pending. Save a summary. If I click on detail, it will list you the items that need to be delivered. Let's see. See, if I click on the detail one, it shows the pending back order is 10 units, right? So that's why that if I'm doing the summary and the detail, so you always want to print the detail one. So if I want to see what is my aging, what payables need to be paid, you go to the same report, payable, vendor age, and then select the detail, include the term, press OK. and that is your vendor age report. You want to save it, you click on export, and then always remember your type is always save as a PDF. You don't want to save anything in Excel. Always remember that for your test as well. We don't like anybody to submit an Excel file because the Excel file can be changed and it's not acceptable for your reports, for your marks. For grading purposes, it's not acceptable. It has to be a PDF, must have a stamp on a date that you're printing and everything else. Okay. So now when you save a report, I always recommend you to have a separate folder for the reports. And over here, I already created a folder 03 twice. And then I'm going to save vendor detail. I'm going to replace, because I previously saved it, I'm going to replace that with the new file. And now I close it. Now you can print the inventory report, print out the financial statements if you need to print the financial statement or you're asked to print the financial statement, you can print those ones. Now the most important one is when you're working on chapter 2, chapter 3 is transaction. I need to mark your transactions. The way that I mark your transactions is through journal entries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to print me all the journal entries. So for that you go into reports, click on journal entries and click all. So when you click all, it's going to ask you the date. So the most common mistake is students will forget to change the date. So I want to see the transaction from April 1 till April 15. So if you don't change the date, it's only going to show you transaction only on April 15. And if I ask you to show me corrections, then you have to show me corrections. If I ask you to show me additional information, you click on the additional information. Okay. So if I say I don't need no correction, I only want to see the additional information along with the journal entries, so you click on that and then you press OK. Okay, once that is done, you review your journal entries. It has the additional information with your comments on that as well, which is important because I want to see your comments. Okay, and then once I see the comment, it will show me all the entries, and that's the one that I'm going to mark you to check whether you did the transaction correct or not. Now if you want to save it, you click on export and then save that as all journal entries. I'm replacing it, but you will be simply saving it. And again, PDF format. Okay, so I think that's cover up your chapter 3A. So what I recommend all of you guys to do is to make sure that you complete the entire chapter 3A, which includes all the exercises from 3A1 to all the way to 21. Okay, and make sure you read the information that's provided in the chapter and go through all of them. And then once that is done, I want you to go back and complete the challenge exercise. The challenge exercise that I recommend to my students is to complete wheelchair, which is a 3A1. To complete a wheelchair, you need a database file that's provided here. Now the instructions for the wheelchair is provided in your chapter at the end. So after you complete 3A1, at the very bottom, before moving on, there's a challenge exercises here. So there's 3A1 wheelchair. It tells you what to do. So you're simply downloading the file and unzipping the way that we unzipped the twice, and you save that in a separate folder. We create a separate folder for the challenge exercise. You save it. Then what you do is you read the instructions for the transaction and do it on that computer using the software and the file that you open, which is the wheelchair. So this is a very good exercise. So I only want you to do this exercise after you complete chapter 3A. Okay, and that will really give you a good hand-on practice for accounts payable basics chapter. All right, so that's the end of the lecture for today's class, and hope you guys were able to find this video useful. After you heard the video, I recommend you to go back, complete chapter 3A and complete the wheelchair challenge exercise. And then after that, if you have any question, if I'm your instructor, you're most welcome to send me a course message, and then I'll able to answer your question if it's a quick question. Otherwise, you can bring your question to the class as well, and then we'll take up those questions in class in person, and then make the class more effective and useful. All right. Okay, then we are done here, and I wish you guys a great week, and I'll see you in class. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.